Hello, greetings, Dr. Hao, Washer, Brown Laosha, as they say here in Suzhou, China, and a very warm welcome to the IMMT channel, where we talk about all things mind-body health related, with an emphasis on Pilates, functional movement, Feldenkrais, and manual therapy, because here at Sino-British Academy, that's what we do. Did you ever feel like, well, you're just collecting health advice? Do this stretch, now this exercise, take this supplement. Here's a quick biohack. Don't eat this. Oh, and let's not forget to meditate. Well, you're not alone. And here's the thing. Most of the advice we receive, especially on the social media, even if it's based on facts, is rather limited in its efficacy. And it's rather like putting a Band-Aid on a leaky pipe. It might look better for a second, but the water just keeps coming. So today, we're talking about a rather different approach that's based on an integrated system of looking at the body in terms of a holistic framework. And this framework, so to speak, is called Integrated Movement and Manual Technique, or IMMT. So hopefully by the end of this episode, you're going to see your own health and how you train others in a whole new light. So what is IMMT? Well, it's a holistic health model built on a simple truth. Your well-being doesn't come from one thing, and it never has. IMMT recognizes 6 key players in your health story. 3 are inside you, what we call the 3 intrinsic pillars, and 3 are outside of you, what we call the extrinsic influences. The 3 intrinsic pillars comprise of your structure and function, so basically your body structure and how you move. Your emotional state. So ever wondered how stiff you are at home, but now you go on a holiday and you go to a nice beach and you suddenly become a yogi and you're all floppy and flexible. Number 3, your nutritional and biomechanical health. So things like food, sleep, hormones, and all of that stuff. Now, the 3 extrinsic influences are made up of the environment. So we're talking here city noise, desk job, social pressure, also your peer pressure, right? Your belief system, like when your doctor says, oh, you have a bulging disc, and you carry that x-ray photo around with you on your phone as proof. And then the context of something is very important. For instance, getting locked out of your bedroom because the door slipped is, well, it's kind of annoying. But getting locked out of your bedroom whilst your kid has an asthma attack inside and you've lost the key, well, that's suddenly a crisis. Same door, totally different body response. So the context is very important of events and how we see things. So when we acknowledge and see how all of these are put together, we see a picture instead of individual pieces of the puzzle. And we can see that an IMMT approach makes sense. And we don't want to be ignoring any of these 6 aspects. And here's where it gets interesting. Most of us are trained to think to find the expert, the shoulder specialist for my shoulder, the back specialist for my back, the movement guru, etc. And while specialists are, of course, amazing, you know, if I'm having a heart attack, I want to see a heart surgeon, not a yoga teacher. Sorry, yoga teachers. But that's acute care, and we need that, and it's essential at that moment in time. But what about the chronic cases, chronic issues, tight hips, low back pain that's been there for many years, fatigue, poor posture, this kind of stuff? Well, for this, we don't need to dive deeper into a single tree. We need someone that can see the whole forest. And this is the generalist approach, and it's the philosophy behind IMMT. Pretty well much what author David Epstein talks about in his book Range. The idea that in complex, messy systems, such as the human body, a breadth of knowledge can be as useful or even more meaningful than pure depth. So IMMT is not a technique, it's a philosophy for practitioners and the ability to make use of a broad toolkit. So Pilates, manual therapy, strength work, breath work, even conversation, and always looking for the root cause and not just focusing on the symptoms. So how does this actually work in practice? The osteopaths will argue that structure governs function, and whilst others may disagree with this and say that function governs the structure, it's really a chicken and egg story of two sides of the same coin. Some people may require more structural work, say for a shoulder problem or a back problem, than functional work, but other people may require more functional work for exactly the same thing. And many people may jump straight into function, for instance. Let's strengthen your glutes, whilst others may be slightly more conservative and say, well, let's take some time to release those opposing muscle groups, such as the hip flexors first. And here's the issue at hand. The brain cannot use a muscle it doesn't know is there. So we're talking about activation of the muscles, not the strength initially. However, interestingly enough, the applied kinesiology approach developed by George Goodhart is based on the swing door theory, whereas most of the time the weak long muscle is the thing that we go to first, without having the need to release the opposing short tight one. Well, that's a subject for a future episode anyway. I think the most common understanding taught by most people now, such as an example, your lower back is tight and your hip flexors are overactive. And you could do 1,000 bridges and your glutes still won't be switching on properly. They're taking a body nap. And this is due to the lack of body mapping. In other words, the hip flexors, such as the psoas, remain short and tight for a reason. They are the symptom or the messenger and not the cause. And most of us are working directly on those, thinking it's going to solve the whole problem. But the ultimate solution should be, why are the psoas short in the first time? Right? So maybe it's a lack of spinal support from the diaphragm, because the psoas is part of that system to help support the spine. And if the diaphragm's not working, the psoas is working overtime. So the solution is to work the diaphragm. Or maybe it's because you've been sitting on your butt for so long, the proprioceptors in the glutes have completely given up. So the solution here is to reactivate the proprioceptors in the glutes. Another case, maybe it's an issue with the kidneys. The psoas are the railway tracks along which the kidneys ride, and a possible solution, therefore, for this situation would be to give or have a kidney lift and get restored motility to the kidneys. Or another way, maybe you don't lift your arms often enough overhead into extension, so your psoas is keeping you in this flexed, safe position, and you have these hyper-facilitated abdominals that now need to be released, because otherwise they're just compressing the spine. And so the list goes on and on and on and on. So in terms of the structure and functional components, the emphasis is going to be on neuromuscular re-education and utilizing the neuroplasticity of the brain. So this comes from movement awareness, and usually sub-maximum loads, normally less than 20%, maximum 30% normally. And the more tools you have in the box, the broader your vision becomes and the more things you can see. In other words, you become someone who sees but doesn't just look. You listen, but you don't just hear. You feel, but you don't just touch. And you speak, you say something without just talking. And IMMT allows you to see the forest and not just the tree. So here's my challenge for you for this week. Think about or pick one chronic ache or movement issue that you've been trying to fix with just one exercise. And ask yourself, do I need to prepare the structure first? And also ask, what other of the 3 intrinsic pillars or 3 extrinsic influences may be affecting or be affected by this issue that you're trying to fix? IMMT is not a certification you hang on the wall. It's a way of thinking, and once you see it, hopefully you can't unsee it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you like what you hear, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. But until then, remember to move smarter, not just harder. And if this lit just a little spark in you, please share it with a colleague who needs to hear it, and I'll see you next time.